Welcome to the Adventist Pilgrimage Podcast, and this is your host, Michael Campbell, and we're interrupting our regular flow of episodes to do something really extraordinary. And so I want to just kind of preface what we have going on this particular episode. Recently, I was able to join one of my colleagues at the North American Division, Dr. Washington Johnson, who's the head of Chaplaincy Ministries. And we were able to go down to Oakwood University and in the area visit some very significant sites to the beginnings of African American Seventh-day Adventism. And while we were there, we had a very special moment. I would say it was an epic moment in which I had the privilege to meet and to talk with Dr. Mervyn Warren. Now, anyone that's familiar with Oakwood and its history, he is a legend. And so with his permission, we were able to get our recorder out and record a very special moment with his reflecting upon not only the history of Oakwood, but also his getting to meet and interview Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Adventist involvement in the civil rights. In fact, even MLK going to Oakwood and speaking at one particular occasion. So there's a lot of rich history that is here. And now I invite you to listen in on our conversation.
And Jesus himself said that he did not come to do away with the law.
Take us out of this world if he does not want us to be contaminated by it.
This is the Adventist Pilgrimage Podcast with your hosts, Michael Campbell and Greg Howell.
When I came to Oakwood as a student in the 1950s, my first job was to pick up the trash around the campus,
Oh, really?
So forth. Yeah. But somehow I was able to be a student leader, a student. I got a student job, put it like that. First, I was Dr. Eva B. Dykes is one of her students, but somehow I was able to be hired by her to grade papers and whatever else she needed. And while there, listening to her, watching her, learning from her, somehow Oakwood as an institution, its history, and its presence at that time, somehow that just began to bury itself in me. Where did Oakwood begin? How did it begin? Dr. Dykes herself was the first PhD on the campus. And at the time, before she came, she was teaching at Howell University in D.C. She became an Adventist there. And of course, she ended up at Oakwood. She resigned and came here. And so I was in that atmosphere, an atmosphere of history. The background, where did Oakwood begin? How did it begin? What were the influences that would help Oakwood to choose the kinds of curricula that it did? And that's sort of the background. So while I'm grading papers, presidents would be coming in, president of Oakwood and presidents from other places, or archivists would be coming by, historians, to talk to her. But I'm listening while they are talking, but not participating at all. But those were seeds planted in me to look at Oakwood from not just as an institution to pay tuition and pass some classes and get a degree, but Oakwood became a part of me without my planning it or trying. And that's how it all began. So many people would come through her area, whether it was the office or her apartment, and she would have me close by. It wasn't taking any notes, but she had I think you remember Washington East Hall when Dr. Dykes, Eva B. Dykes, was a teacher here. She had the entire first floor. That was her apartment, her office. Yes. And so absolutely. Yeah.
Dr. Warren, I'm just excited. Keep talking. Yes. That's tremendous.
And so when individuals would come, they were not only coming to her apartment, but they were coming to her office, coming to her home, coming to her workplace. And I was a part of the workplace. So I found myself just soaking all of that in. Without any plan to do so. Some of the names that would come through would be O.B. Edwards, historian, F.L. Peterson, president. We have representatives from the General Conference, other institutions. They all wanted to get to her so that they would learn more about her.
It's like she was an oracle.
I'm telling you. So, and then she began to kind of work me into her responsibilities. For example, she had an article in the Mrs. magazine. It was a series, and it actually was Bible. Each one was a Bible study, and she'd have a prayer at the end of the Bible study, and it came to a point that, and I never expected it. I don't know why, but she said, "Little Merv," as she called me, "Little Merv."
That is great.
Why don't you try to write some of these prayers for me?
Oh,
And I'm just a student here.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, "Yes, Dr. Dykes, I'll try." And so, when I began to write prayers to climax her Bible studies, then she said, "That's your responsibility from now on."
Wow.
So she's getting me started.
Yeah.
And I'm not connecting this to anything. That was just a job. When I left, I went to other classes.
But she sees a moment to mentor.
And she saw something
Potential.
that I didn't see. She saw something.
I love it.
And of course, they named the library after her. It's the Eva B. Dykes Library on campus. She never married.
Never. Oh.
Yeah, no, she never married. And then she began to try to encourage me to have a social life and not to plan the future as a bachelor.
Oh.
But,
Do you think she kind of wishes she had found somebody, if she's encouraging you to find somebody?
She mentioned to me that she had a friendly relationship with someone in Washington, D.C. That never materialized. Oh. But I never got details of it, and I dare not ask any questions.
Maybe a broken heart there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes. And she mentioned something to me one day on this along this thought. She said, "Little Merv, you know what? If I were you, I think I'd be attracted to a young lady like that." And she mentioned a particular female that she thought would be appropriate for me. So,
she's a little matchmaker here.
A little matchmaker.
Yeah, it's Adventist College,
And she was, I'm telling you, she was an extraordinary pianist.
Was she
had
really?
a piano. Oh, yes.
Aliens still give you this.
She started the Aliens, gave them the name.
That's right.
And she had a piano there, and one day she said, "Little Merv, come over here. I'm going to give you a music test, aptitude test." I said, "All right, Dr. Dykes." So I went through the questions and all that. And when she finished, she said, "Little Merv, you have a very high score. You should be a musician, include music in your life." And I said, "Thank you, Dr. Dykes. Well, maybe I will at some point." My mind at that point, my first year was pre-med.
Yeah.
But once I began to work for her, it was ministry. And so I didn't relate myself to be a musician. I was trying to plan to be a minister. I was not even concerned about teaching. It was just ministry. So she had the kind of perspective of life that was broader than individuals thought.
Sure.
They usually looked at her as someone who knew only the four walls of an office and writing articles and books and receiving visitors who wanted to talk with her, interview her or whatever. No. She was quite a balanced person. For example, not only that kind of activity she exposed me to, but I was the person that she had to make her carrot juice.
Really?
Oh, yes. That was another duty I had. Carrot juice, celery.
Carrot juice.
Yeah, carrot, celery, beets. I became.
Make us hungry here.
Oh yeah. She was quite a personality.
Yeah.
And even after I finished Oakwood, graduated, went to the seminary, I was told I had a call. It never actually reached me, but responsible leaders mentioned to me that Northeastern was going to invite me to be the youth pastor at Ephesus. But at the same time, the call that did reach me, it came from Oakwood, and Dr. Millett was the president, and he invited me to come and join the religion department.
Wow.
And somehow I was never, ever to free myself from that office or that responsibility. So I began to preach, and I would pastor here and there temporarily in this area, but my life became Oakwood, and Oakwood became my life. And I spent, according to what the human resource office tells me, they credit me with 53 years at Oakwood. 53. Yeah.
Amen.
And that's something.
Is that the record, Dr. Warren?
I'm told it is.
Okay.
I'm told it's
sitting here with the record here today.
I haven't counted it. Because I know I took a leave of absence, but when I took a leave of absence, just that language means you're not resigning.
Right.
It's not
just a leave.
Yeah, you're leaving to do whatever you're going to do. It may be research, or maybe to get a degree or whatever. So I did take a 3-year period to go to Michigan State University for a PhD. And before I came back from Ann Arbor, Michigan, Lake Region asked me if I would pastor. And I said, oh, why not? Because, that's practical theology, which was my major at the time. And I pastored 2 years in the Lake Region Conference, Benton Harbor.
Did you really?
Benton Harbor, yeah. If you go there, you see a lot of pictures because I put them there when I was there.
Yeah.
So that was a part of the kind of thinking Dr. Dykes put into my mind. Wow. The pen is stronger than the sword. Is that the way it goes? The pen is mightier than the sword. See, and that I always thought about how do you make this a part of history. So I just put all of the pictures of the pastors there at that church, and which included mine, of course. And of course, when I left there, I came back to Oakwood. So that was a 3-year leave. And Oakwood considers that still being with them.
Oh, okay.
And so the total is 53 53 years.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I don't know if you have any questions. I can rattle on, but I want to be able to.
Before I forget, I heard a rumor that you have a recording of when MLK, we just went over to the gymnasium.
Oh, okay.
And I just got to hear this from you because were you there, Dr. Warren?
I was there.
You were there. Could you just indulge me with this story? I got to hear it from the horse's mouth, you know?
Yes. By the way, that was 1962, as I recall correctly, and that was my first year teaching at Oakwood. I just finished the seminary.
Wow.
Yeah, in 1961, I just finished seminary, invited to come to Oakwood, and the spring of that same year, I say, actually, you might want to say spring or winter, that's when Dr. King came to the campus. And I got a program with his signature on it.
With his signature?
Oh yes. I
might just have to see it.
I did not know that. I knew that you were close, and you wrote a book about Dr. King also. Come preaching.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think I've seen that too.
Yeah, right. That was a result of my PhD on him. See, when I went to Michigan State University, and that's a story all of its own. When I got to the point in my studies to write the dissertation, which they required, they approved Dr. King. They approved
the topic
as a topic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But my mind was theological, you know. Yeah. I did not study him just as a rhetorician, as a public speaker.
Right.
Many individuals were unaware that Dr. King was not a sociologist or a rhetorician, just a public speaker, social leader. His training was theology.
Right.
At Morehouse. Then he went to seminary. In Pennsylvania, Crozier Seminary. And of course, when I was at Michigan State, they approved my topic. But when they approved my topic, they said, now, you have chosen Dr. King as your topic for your dissertation. He is alive. Whenever you choose a personality for a doctorate there, if that individual is alive, a requirement is that you have a personal conversation, interview with that subject, that person. If he were not alive, you could just go to the library and look at articles, what have you. But the moment they said that, I began to be very nervous. I said, now, how in the world am I going to have a conversation or interview with Dr. King?
Yes.
And then someone said to me, someone who heard an African American in the Department of Education at Michigan State heard that I was approved to write the dissertation on King. He said, well, I was with Dr. King in Selma. I was there. And the person sharing with me the name of that educator at Michigan State, the individual said, you know what? Maybe he can help you get to Dr. King to have your interview. Mm-hmm. You know, the Lord sent that to me, you know, and I said, wow, really? I said, yeah, okay. He said, okay, well, I'll tell him about it. You know?
Yeah.
And he did. He got in touch with me, and he said, oh, I'll be happy to do what I can to see if I can get you in touch with Dr. King. Well, I won't give you all the details, but I got a telephone call one day from Dora McDonald. He was Dr. King's personal secretary. And she said, "Are you Mr. Warren?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, Dr. King understands that you are going to write a PhD dissertation on him. You want to research," he said, "and he would be happy to have an interview with you. He's going to be in Chicago, such and such a date. His flight," gave me the number of his flight, and said he'll be there such and such a date, such and such a time, this flight. And he says that he'll be looking forward to it. Well, that sounded very easy. After that, I made plans to be there, and I was there. But I said to myself, now with all of these individuals here, photographers and newspapers and individuals who are interested in him, I said, now, how am I going to get to him? Nobody knows me. Dr. King has never seen me. And he certainly is not going to make an announcement. Is there a Mervyn Warren around or somewhere? I said, how do I make that contact?
Yeah.
So I'm out on the periphery of this crowd in the airport, and they're talking to him and flashing photographers and these writers, asking him questions, and he's dealing with them. And I said, man, when he finishes this, he's just going to walk away. What am I going to do? But then, after about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a voice said to me, "Are you Mr. Warren?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You stay close to me." That was Andrew Young. See, I knew I was on the agenda.
Yeah.
I knew it then. He had my name, but he didn't know my face.
Yeah.
But then he saw this African American over there by himself, looking lonely and scared. And he said, say, "Stay close to me." I said, "All right, thank you." So when it was over, he interviewed he led me to Dr. King, and he said to Dr. King, "Well, this is Mr. Warren from Michigan." He said, "Oh, yes, fine." So we started then, not talking about my purpose, where I was going to talk to him. He needed to get out of the airport because they had so many policemen there, and to protect him, and he's still there.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to take up all their time. So he said, "Well, just, we're going to walk and get a rental car." Andrew Young went to, I think it was Hertz. In my notes, I have
which car rental company that?
Yeah. So while Andrew and we eventually the three of us alone.
Yes.
Without any interruption, we were able to walk down that thoroughfare, in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Got the car. We got in the car. And when we got in the rental, Andrew was the driver. Dr. King sat the passenger seat in the front, and I sat in the back. Of course, they didn't know me, but they trusted me, so I'm in the back, But I'm sitting in the middle so we can talk. Mm-hmm. So we began to talk and so forth. Are you familiar with Chicago at all?
A little bit.
A little one. Is it Dan Ryan?
Yes.
That's it. We driving down Dan Ryan together,
Oh my goodness.
And I began my interview in the car.
Yeah.
So many questions. I won't wade you through that. But here's something that was interesting. He said, "What college are you from before you were at Michigan State?" Dr. King asking me. And I said, "Oakwood College, Huntsville, Alabama." He said, "Oh, you just got a new president, didn't you? What's his name? Frank Howell." Something he had that was in his mind. I said, "How did he know about it? How did he know about it?" And I learned later that he probably read it in Jet. So that's your family there, you know. Ebony and Jet, those publications. That way, I guess I never asked him. I didn't think to ask him. Well, how did you know that? You know, it didn't quite fit.
But he knew.
He knew. The moment I said Oakwood, and then of course he began to reminisce that he himself had spoken at Oakwood. You follow me? Yeah, and it made that connection.
It's a puzzle coming together.
I like it.
Yes. And then he said, "Now, you want to go with me to the motel? You can stay with me at the motel before I speak tonight," because he was going to speak at a church that night. I said, "Well, you know, Dr. King, I'm not going to take up all your time. You need some time to yourself, I know, before you preach." He said, "Well, meet me in the pastor's study, just in case. You know, we can talk some more," which I did. I could have gone to the motel with him, but I didn't. But I did meet him at the church that night. Now here is my this is my, what I would call it. I guess I should call it my well of disappointment. Mistake, really. It's deeper. It's deeper than something to be disappointed about. It's an error on my part. I didn't have the awareness that I should have taken I should have had a photographer to be there to take photographs of me with him. I never did.
Oh, yeah.
See? Now others did. There's a lot of, cameras flashing all over the place. And someone I just recently this year said, I need to do something about that. So I asked someone to go to, for example, Chicago Tribune. Is that one of the papers there? And there's some others. There's some others there too. I know they were there. Mm-hmm. Took these pictures, Oh, I could have had someone at the church, but I didn't. And but it's out there somewhere. And I really believe before Jesus comes, if he delays his coming, somebody is going to see those photos and publicize them in some way, But it's out there. I've mentioned this once or twice when I give my public addresses about Dr. King. Yeah. Individuals go to their iPhones right away and see what they can do, to find it. Think they might find it on
the archives.
Yeah.
That's a mantra.
You're an archivist. You can make that one of your. See if you can do something to find that photo. I'm out there somewhere, but of course the people who were there obviously. Much older than us, and some of them have passed away. And you don't know whether whether they kept their photos at the office or whether they took them home. There's so many variables there. You don't know, what you might face. But sooner or later, I just believe. Maybe I'm just hoping, but I really believe that one of those photos is going to show its face. But that was my mistake.
Well, you just never know. I found, I think, 8 or 9 Ellen White letters, handwritten letters by Ellen White. So stuff still pops up, even from all kinds of different places. So. It's probably out there.
It's out there somewhere.
Dr. Warren, thanks to you, I know to keep my eyes open for it. So that's what a moment.
But here's one thing that did happen. Mm-hmm. I was able to give. In fact, he asked me when we were having the interview. Said, may I have a copy of the dissertation when you finish? I said yes. Mm. And when I finished it. Let me get it. This right here. Sure. At least you'll be able to see it.
Would love to see it.
And I said, yes, sir, I certainly will. Let's see here.
I believe we get to hear this story.
Tremendous. This is my first time, I've heard bits and pieces, but to be here in his home and to listen to him, it's an awesome privilege. Thank the Lord for it.
I want to go look see if I find a picture of him.
You found some good things. You found some good things.
You never know.
Wow, what a large dissertation there.
Look at that.
Wow.
Well, it's enough.
How many pages?
Take a look at it and see. I don't remember.
I think you earned your stripe.
Yeah, definitely so.
Look at that. Wow.
Would you read it for me, the name of it?
Yeah, a rhetorical study of the preaching of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., pastor and pulpit orator. Michigan State University, 1966.
So,
and this was typed.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
This is old school right here.
Yeah, not like today. You can do it overnight almost.
Now, this is something. It doesn't take the place of my disappointment in myself. I'm not taking a picture with him or some pictures because I was with him more than once. Not only there, but up in Michigan, he came to a church to preach in Detroit, and I was there. But anyway, what I was able to do is to give a copy
Mrs.
of
King.
that. I gave her a copy for but that was after he had been assassinated.
Tremendous.
If I knew, but I should have gone to him right away after I finished it, but I didn't. I said, I'm sure I'll have an opportunity. And he was very busy, but then he was assassinated. Then I missed that opportunity, but then I was able to get with his wife.
2 years afterwards, in 68, and you wrote this in 66. I guess all of us would have thought perhaps he would have been around. You would see him again. But 2 years.
Yeah.
The things of life you don't know. You just don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he reflected about speaking at Oakwood. I want to come back to that. When you were with him, he talked about coming to Oakwood to speak?
He didn't say much about it, but he remembered, he connected me with that occasion, but he didn't make any comments about the speech per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's just like, I remember speaking there kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. The moment I said Oakwood, then he related me and connected me with where he had spoken before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now tell me, were you here at Oakwood? Did you hear him actually speak when he came and spoke at Oakwood?
Oh yes, I was there in the audience.
You were there in the audience?
That was my first year teaching at Oakwood.
Okay, tell us about that now.
Yeah. See, I graduated from the seminary. Mm-hmm. I got what they used to call the BD, which was really the MDiv.
Yes.
The old school. That's right. I got it in 61 at Andrews. I got the MA at the seminary in Tacoma Park. It was Potomac University.
Oh.
And they gave MAs, see?
Wow.
Yeah. But then when they transferred to Berrien Springs, I was in the midst of the BD. I had an MA from the seminary, and that was about Booker T. Washington and his speaking. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Andrews, 61. Then in 62, I'm at Oakwood as a teacher. That's my freshman as a teacher. Yeah. And 62 is when King came.
Interesting. What a year to start teaching.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the more I think about it, the more I feel responsible for more than I've done. There's something in my mind, my heart. I just wonder, could I have done more? Why don't I do more now? It's just, I guess it's just the human situation.
Dr. Johnson and I were talking earlier, and we were actually over there in the gym, how not every the other doors in the community were closed to him, and yet Oakwood was willing to take the risk and allow him to be able to speak. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes. Yes. I mean, the world could raise this question. Could raise this question with fair reasoning. Why, how, and why did King end up speaking at Oakwood? Why? Oakwood didn't. Oakwood wasn't the first contact with him. But the story is that the other facilities were afraid. For example, if you were a state school, then you have revenue, but you don't want that revenue to be threatened,
right?
Because they were not behind King. See, they were not enthusiastic that King was coming to preach in Huntsville or deliver a speech. Whether you're talking about the local educational leaders or the state. And so when the committee that invited King, which was a non-Adventist committee, it wasn't even Oakwood who invited him. They went to various situations, the public auditoriums like Von Braun. Now, Von Braun itself was not in existence then, but the representative or the equality of the Von Braun Civic Center, they did have such a place in the city for these kinds of occasions. And then there were schools, whether it was on high schools, there were universities close by, but they all said no.
Dr. Warren, I just did some research. Governor George C. Wallace was governor from January 14th, 1963 to 1966.
Yeah.
And also he was there in 63. So, yes, it would have been challenging. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Governor
George Wallace, you know about the Wallace. He's the one who stood in the door of Alabama University and said no. the law might be saying yes, but I'm saying no. You know. See, so in the midst of all of that, Oakwood said, "We'd be happy to have him on our campus. We are a private institution and a Christian institution." So it ends up having King on our campus. Dr. Millett should get a lot of credit for that, because this is a general conference school, however, and that was another dimension to have to worry with. See, the general conference. Yeah. Now, if he had gone to the general conference and said, "May we?" they might have said no.
So he didn't ask for permission. He just did.
I am not aware of him asking for any permission.
Because we were talking earlier about this, how there was word from the top in Tacoma Park, I guess.
Yeah, Tacoma Park.
Forbidding pastors from marching with MLK, and that kind of thing, with the threat being potentially people losing their jobs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There you are. So, Dr.
Millett,
Dr. Millett, Garland Millett, Senior. Yeah,
he said this is the right thing to do, and he just went for it.
There you go.
Was there any pushback to that from church headquarters that you knew of?
Not that I know of. There might have been, but I don't know.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. So, do you remember what he talked about? You said you had a program signed by him. Anything about those details of that moment? You were in the crowd, and then rumor has it that there's a picture of King from the front looking out on the audience. I assume maybe we'll find that in the library.
The only picture I am aware of that might exist in the.
Is it in here?
Yeah, he's in here.
It's in this. Okay.
Yeah.
Here.
Let's see.
That's 292 pages right there.
292 pages.
Yeah.
What a dissertation. Well, you earn your stripes. We should give you one more.
Here we are. King is page 193, 194. This is the only picture that I have at the bottom there.
Oh, okay. Oh, right here. So that's actually a picture of him speaking. Look at that.
Yeah. That's the only one I've been able to find. Our archives might have more, but that's the only one I had.
Interesting. Did you take this picture?
No. I copied it from Oakwood's archives.
Can you still buy this book at the bookstore? Do you know?
They should have some there. If not, just contact me.
Okay.
Okay.
My only regret is I don't have one to have you sign it.
Oh.
I'll have to, maybe we can swing by for a few minutes before the day's over. I don't know.
Sure.
But I've seen this book, but I've never had the opportunity to get a copy. So I hope they have one. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's come back and talk about so King. So he speaks here, and what other are you talk about how Oakwood became a part of you, and you became a part of Oakwood. And here you have been telling the story of Oakwood. Ellen White comes to this campus, and she sees the potential, and she serves, as I understand it, on the board. So our early pioneers, in the history of our church, and one of the things I love about Ellen White and our earliest pioneers is she has a vision of equality and a vision of what's going to happen in heaven, that we need to work towards that now. So she's the one that, I don't have to tell you this, but, our duty to the colored people, 1891, 1850, 40 years before, she's telling people to fight back against, the slave catchers and Dred Scott and all of those things, where she's actively promoting. So here we have this moment when Oakwood is born, 1896? Here,
yes.
I'm looking here.
Yes.
I'm glad that... But tell me, the Oakwood has a specialness to it, and I have to tell you, walking across the campus just a little bit this morning before we met up, I just felt like I was walking on sacred ground. So, maybe talk to me about...
You were.
Yeah.
You felt the truth.
Talk to me about the birth of Oakwood, and that this is a moment in time in Adventism that continues to be very special. Talk to me about that beginning.
Oakwood had challenges to begin. It wasn't easy at all.
Right.
Not at all. And
that's why they needed Oakwood, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oakwood's story has to take under consideration the Lone Star boat. You familiar with that? That her son, one of her sons.
Oh, the Morning Star.
The Morning Star. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Morning Star. He went down the Mississippi, and he was Bible studies and teaching and so forth and so on. Oakwood actually can be considered something of an outgrowth of that, at least inspiration from it. Before Oakwood, there was a Morning Star, but Oakwood is an institution in a literal place in a southern state. And you can imagine for representatives and especially when they come from, quote, the North, coming down to Alabama to find land to build a black school.
Right.
See, give those GC representatives credit because they were Yankees.
Yeah.
They were Yankees. Now, if they had come from Georgia over here, it might have been a different story in terms of feelings and emotions. But here are the Yankees coming down, and they look to find, and they found the acres here and so forth and so on. And Oakwood is born.
On a former plantation.
Yes, former plantation, all of that.
Dred Scott, right?
Dred Scott. There's so much, we could be here forever.
Yeah, a lot of context.
To cover all those bases.
A lot of context, but that's amazing. Back to the narrative.
Yes, absolutely. So, 3 representatives, as I recall, from GC came to Huntsville, and you can ask the question, why did they choose Huntsville?
Yeah.
They could have chosen something in Georgia or something or down by Birmingham or whatever. But they came to this, but there's some history behind that too, just a little. Trying to think of the name of this preacher is in the study there. This one of the early black preachers who had been given Bible studies and
Kenny?
Preaching. It might have been Kenny.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe Kenny.
Okay.
He gave Bible studies. He was baptizing people. He was preaching, and he, I understand, made an appeal to the GC that not Oakwood, but Huntsville is a place that you might want to look at for a school for blacks, and I think I touch on that in the book itself. And then when they come to get the land, and just this, I don't know, were you on campus this past Sabbath? One of the youth pastors at Oakwood preached, and he quoted from the book Oakwood. In fact, he was here sitting where you are this past week talking to me. He said that he's now trying to do Bible studies over on the campus of A&M University, and he's been talking with their leader, their spiritual leader, and what have you. And he quotes what Ellen White says there. She said, the school in Normal, Alabama, that's A&M, the school in Normal, Alabama will be a blessing, will be a help to us, Oakwood. Yeah. So that we can learn, we can get ideas and learn how do you teach these individuals who are sons and daughters of slaves, how do you approach it, in an atmosphere of KKKs. And he mentioned that just this past Sabbath. Wow. He mentioned that in his sermon.
Power of the printed page and printed word.
Yeah.
Sword.
Yes. And I really thank God for the non-blacks, the whites, as we say, who were brave enough to come down and do the courage, man.
Because they were taking a big risk too.
Oh yes, It kind of reminds me of the Sabbath school lesson last week before last, when we were talking about when Jesus said that when you come to me, you're taking up the cross. See, you take when you say you're going to follow me, you're taking up the cross. And that reminds me of Dr. King, who was famous for saying, if you don't have anything that you're willing to die for,
that's right,
you don't have anything to live for.
Ooh.
And I think also, what was this German's name? Bonhoeffer, who said something similar. Yes. Oh yes. He said this when he said discipleship means that you're saying, I'm ready for the cross.
God said He calls a man to die.
When He calls you, He's causing you to die. You follow me,
Dr. Warren?
Huh?
I'm with you. I feel like an altar call here.
Dr. Campbell, I'm thinking Dr. Warren was on a path when he mentioned the South at that time. We must remember that the first capital of the Confederacy was in Montgomery, Alabama. And Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee still were highly respected. Even now, they celebrate those holidays.
Legends.
In Alabama, Mississippi, and other places. So it was a challenging time for, we would say, Yankees to actually come down south.
The Reconstruction period. And you mentioned KKK,
And KKKs were aware. I think I say something in the book there. Yeah, about KKK's coming to look to see who are these people and where are they who are going to do something for blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, KKKs, man.
Suspicion.
They were watching.
Threat.
They were watching.
Yeah.
They were aware. And by the way, KKKs began in Pulaski.
Mm-hmm.
Pulaski, Alabama.
We'll pass that way tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
On
Yeah,
Wednesday, going to Nashville.
That is the birthplace of the KKK.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
We'll keep driving fast.
yeah, man.
We won't stop.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Warren, wow, I feel just so humbled and privileged to just be here. We have a new generation of young people, and they don't always know our history and story and the story of Oakwood,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in the future that maybe even listens to this. I hadn't even planned this. We just serendipitously, this all came together, But if someone were listening in the future and all of this amazing history, I would even say, although as historians we're always hesitant to say providential history, but on a very deeply personal level, I feel this is God's providence that brought Oakwood into existence. What would you want to say to a new generation looking back? Here, Oakwood's a part of you as we started out. What would you have them remember?
These are students, you say, who are here now, are
future
coming.
Students.
Oh, future students.
Yeah, future students.
Oh, future students. Yes. I am an apostle of Jesus Christ by his grace.
Yes.
And on a human level, I consider myself an apostle not only of Dr. King, but also Booker T. Washington.
Ooh. You didn't talk much about him. And you said your master's thesis, right?
Yeah, the master's thesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the master's thesis
Talk
is
to me
on
about him.
Dr. King.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington.
Booker T. Washington.
Yeah, that was my master's at the seminary, my thesis at our seminary.
I feel the story coming on.
Yes. Maybe I should have brought it out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it out before you leave. Let you see it. So that's my world. That's my mind. No day comes and goes in my life, but I don't think about something in the category of social justice. I was just reading in the Bible, for example, what we think about and how we love and we build a fence around the value of Daniel 8:14 in the Bible, unto 2,300 days.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. The word for cleanse in the Old Testament, and my mind is trying to reach it now, I forget it, but the sanctuary in its cleansing, it has a certain word for cleansing, and that's throughout the Old Testament. From the beginning, when God said, let them make me a sanctuary, cleansing was a part of it, the Day of Atonement. Nevertheless, when you come to Daniel 8:14, when Daniel says, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, he does not use the same word for cleanse as Moses uses.
Right.
See, he uses Nasdaq. Yeah. Which you interpret it is not simply just cleansing in the sense of the rest of the Old Testament, but Nasdaq also means justice.
Yes, sir.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, which I include in our 1844 theology and its value, and it's all intact with me. It's all intact. No questions about it. But there must be another dimension of that. If Daniel used another name for cleanse, why didn't he just use, I almost got the word, the traditional word, but I remember Nizdak. Mm-hmm. It means under 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be justified. Mm-hmm. Huh? So that is my mentality, that as a Seventh-day Adventist, I am sharing young people not just historical Adventist theology, but what I believe that God also has for us a broader understanding, an application of the meaning. And 1844 was also the beginning of much of what some of us are still trying to do. Not just the going over the records and seeing who's going to be saved and who's going to be lost, and you know, what we call the judgment. The judgment. What's the name of it? Investigative judgment. It's beyond. It includes the investigative judgment, but it's much more.
Oh wow! Well, come on, Doc. We're having a devotional here.
Yeah. Wow. And so I would try to say something to the young people that by God's grace, the Holy Spirit's inspiration to broaden their perception and their concepts and their interpretation and their hermeneutics, to recognize that Jesus' interpretation of the law is still relevant. If we take it literally, we are on the right spot. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and your neighbor. And that's, you know, that's all the human beings that you can relate to.
Yes.
That you must love them. We must love each other. In addition to loving God. That's what I would share with them, that kind of thinking, you know, that hermeneutics.
Love it. You're not off the hook on Booker T. Washington, though.
Let me go get it right quick. You want to see the
Sure. I want to,
Let me just get it.
Just in a nutshell, I want to hear why you're passionate about that. So.
I just love that in the sanctuary, you know, that word.
I'm never going to see that the same way again after that.
Justice, you know.
I think it's a moment where we see we've been talking a lot about the civil rights movement, but Adventist theology and the two intersecting in such a beautiful way.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, they're joined together. 1844 message.
Which is why so many of our pioneers were abolitionists.
Oh, you know what? We need to to be brought up during Black History Month. That's why they understood.
You know? Yeah.
I never really given that
because if we're going to have equality in heaven, we have to start fighting for equality now.
Dr. Warren, did you hear what Dr. Campbell said? I'll say that again, Dr. Campbell, about fighting for equality.
If we're going to have equality in heaven, we believe Jesus is coming again, then that means we have to fight for equality now.
Yes.
That's why our pioneers were abolitionists.
Yeah, this was...
Is this your MA thesis?
MA at our seminary.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a picture of him.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Now there's a little story about him in connection with this. This is Elder Mosley. He was the first African American chairperson at Oakwood. All of the others were white.
Campbell, you know the relationship, Dr. Warren and...
It's your father-in-law, right?
That's my father-in-law.
Right.
That's right.
I picked up on that.
That's his younger daughter.
Wow. It's a special connection right there. Yeah. I love it.
Well,
by the way, did you meet your wife at Oakwood? You talked about,
I did, at Oakwood.
You talked about Eva B. Dykes giving you some hints.
Yeah.
And so that apparently worked out then.
Yeah. I met her at Oakwood.
Yeah.
She was born at Oakwood, and she was here through her sophomore year.
Mm.
And the only reason why she transferred from Oakwood to Washington Adventist Boulevard, it was Columbia Union.
Union, right.
Back there, yeah. Okay. Her dad was called to the GC. He accepted the call to go to the GC, and she went there and graduated in Tacoma Park.
By then?
Oh yeah, we got things. We got things in order here before she left.
Oh, well, that was wise. Take care of your business.
Yeah.
Don't let her slip through your fingers.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when Elder Mosley, before he came to Oakwood as a student, in the early mid-20s, he went to Tuskegee. Oh. He was a student of Tuskegee, and he was in charge. He blew a trumpet. You know, he could. Oh, he was terrific. I've heard him blow the trumpet. Not just hymns and, songs that we normally expect, but he was able to blow his trumpet so that we could hear classic music, classical music. Now, when he was at Tuskegee, he was in charge of waking the students up. I guess it was a reveille. Is it reveille, or is that going to bed?
That's what we do in the military. In the morning. It you up.
Taps or whatever you
taps,
call it, right?
Yeah, your taps and reveille.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was his responsibility as a student. That was a part of his student labor at Tuskegee.
To wake everybody up.
To wake her and let them know when it's time to go to bed.
Oh, that's fine.
Now, but my point, that while I'm connecting our thought here with Tuskegee, is that Elder Mosley, as a teenager, at Tuskegee, his job was to deliver mail, and so he would deliver the mail to the president of Tuskegee. And he said that when he would go by Washington Carver, this very famous scientist, the one I understand he invited. I think he created peanut butter. He had a lot to do about farming and what have you.
Credited,
yeah. He had a Bible study. Washington Carver. He had a Bible study on campus for anybody who wanted to come. And Elder Mosley said one day, he said, Calvin, who was delivering mail, said, Calvin, I want you to come to my Bible study. And he said yes, and he started it. And Elder Mosley said that's when he first began to really appreciate the Bible.
Awesome.
Yeah, see? and he said that really, for the first time, touched him. There's so many connections. Man, I'll tell you, life is interesting. So many rivers, lakes, and I'm telling you, I suppose it's like what one of the prophets in the New Testament says. One of the Gospels says that if everything was written, there wouldn't be room to archivize it. You wouldn't have a library to take care of it. Now I know technology would help, But even that wouldn't be sufficient.
Yeah.
So many.
Well, we got the Heavenly Archives.
So many connections, and one of my challenges right now, and I face it every day, and I crave your prayers. Every day, I am challenged about living long enough to at least accomplish some of the projects that I have in mind. Yeah, there's always something, and most of it is research and writing.
Sure.
And
what are you working on right now?
Well, right now I am working on an expansion of the Oakwood history book.
See that ends.
Yeah. This is the third edition. This one ends with
2010. Yeah, 2010.
Yeah. So this ends with Baker.
Okay.
That ends with Baker. And I just last evening I was typing a message to President Pollard to remind him that we're working on the history book, and we're waiting for his chapter. We give the presidents the privilege, if they want, to assign or to write their own chapter. And see, Baker, that's Baker. That's through Baker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's one more person I just have to ask you about before, because I just have to ask you, Anna Knight. Did you ever meet Anna Knight?
Oh, yes.
What was she like?
When I was a
Talk
student,
to me about her.
when I was a student, she was on campus, and I always, my vision of her, my memories of her, she was always planting plants. She was always working on the campus and
Just
planting
stuff?
trees. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful plants.
So she was a gardener then.
I guess so. It wasn't food to eat, but it was just plants to beautify the campus. I did not have a relationship with her as such, except speaking to her and saying hello, but I never had a conversation with her. Well respected.
Who she was.
Yeah, well, she had family on campus. There were students who were members of her family, descendants.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were students on campus.
Did she ever talk for like an assembly or anything?
She did, I think. Yeah, I think so. I don't remember the topic right now, but I don't remember a speech as such. But I remember, I think, her being present at occasions and kind of influencing students to know how to act. Do not be talking while the speaker is speaking. And of course, back there, males and females sat on different sides of the auditorium.
Oh, they did that at Oakwood too, huh?
Oh yeah. And she would make sure that that was followed.
Wow.
If someone was out, she would correct that.
Hey, you're getting a little too close, huh?
Yeah. But I don't remember relating personally to her a great deal. It was always as passing and seeing her or listening to her, but not like Dr. Dykes. See, I lived with Dr. Dykes, man.
Yeah. Interesting.
And she really adopted me, really, unofficially.
Beautiful.
Well, since you're still writing, maybe we should have you. I need to check and see who's written or hasn't written the article on Eva B. Dykes. I may have to hit you up on that one for the new Encyclopedia of Adventism.
Well, I think Oakwood has done that already.
Have they done it? I have to go back and look.
Yeah, Oakwood,
but I didn't want to.
We did
look on my phone because we're
there was an article on her.
Is it okay?
Encyclopedia. That was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay,
Here at Oakwood.
instantly when I start thinking of articles is but if there is, I'm very happy.
Because I did the Oakwood part, as I recall, most of it, some of it.
Yeah. So we had that. And we had actually a number of good articles on early Black Adventism.
But I was on the encyclopedia committee, the committee, and we went through all the names, and Ananite, I'm sure, is one of them.
And Jesus himself said that he did not come to do away with the law.
He will not take us out of this world if he does not want us to be content.